Mile high hello, everybody in Broncos country, and welcome into another episode of the Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast. I'm your host, Lance Sanderson, and joining me, as always, is your Denver Broncos insider and senior NFL draft analyst for Mile High Huddle, Erick Trickel. Erick, what's going on, man? How's everything going up there in Alaska?
Everything's going good. Just would be really nice if our winter actually would start. It's the end of November, almost Thanksgiving. We've had a couple snowfalls, but nothing that's really stuck to the ground. It's been rainy and wet and muddy, and just not a typical Alaskan winter, which I really like typical Alaskan winters. But now it's going to, since it's so wet and rainy, it's going to get cold, it's going to freeze, and it's going to make the roads very dangerous, which I absolutely hate.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of icy roads at all, especially considering what I do. Icy roads are extremely dangerous, and down this way we got a couple inches of snow the other day, and it's made everything pretty slick over here as well. But for the most part, we've been relatively mild. It was like 35 degrees today, pretty chilly this morning, but I mean, it is what it is. It's kind of nice to have this mild winter. It makes the hunting easy. We went hunting again this last weekend. I took my girlfriend down with me to meet my parents for the first time. That went really well, and shout out to my folks and to her for actually getting along, because it's never happened before in my life. So, but anyways, guys, this week on Dove Valley Deep Divers, after watching the Minnesota Vikings and as efficient as they were in the second half, throwing the football against this Broncos secondary, we're gonna break down the quarterback position, kind of what we have going on with the cornerbacks this year. Chris Harris Jr., Devontae Harris, guys like that. The way that they've been playing this year, and also, we're going to kind of take a look towards the future just a little bit, specifically Chris Harris Jr. and the guys in the NFL draft coming up this year in 2020. So here we go.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
All right, guys, last week against the Minnesota Vikings, the Broncos defense played spectacularly in the first half. They held Dalvin Cook to 20 yards rushing or something like that in the first half, and Kirk Cousins was absolutely atrocious. They couldn't hardly seem to get anything going, and the Broncos offense exploded, got out to a 20-0 lead, and it turned into what was arguably the most disappointing loss in Denver Broncos history. You get up 20 points in the first half. Teams were 0-99 going into that game when trailing by 20 points at halftime. So first loss that's in the last 5 years. So
see that. Hold on, I have issues with that, because is that only regular season? Because the 28-3 Super Bowl.
Well, with the 28-3 Super Bowl, the deficit was only 21-3 at halftime. So it was only 18 points.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
No, a lot of people do, because everyone's like, oh, that's the greatest comeback in Super Bowl history. Obviously it is. There's no question about that. But it was only an 18-point deficit going into halftime, because it was 28-3 in the third quarter, which made the comeback even more spectacular than it actually was. I guess not than it actually was. But anyways, you get my point. So yeah. At 0-99, over the last 5 seasons, one of the last teams that had a game like that where they were up 20-plus points going into halftime was in 2013, the Denver Broncos against the New England Patriots. And that was a very disappointing loss, because Denver was up 24-0 at halftime in that loss. So, I digress on that. It was an embarrassing thing to see, especially how the Vikings opened up the passing game and specifically got after Devontae Harris in the passing game. And, he's been playing up and down football. There's been flashes of him being actually able to be really competent, but in the second half, it seemed like Stephon Diggs and that BC, whatever the heck his name is, was
BC Johnson.
That's there. Thank you for the correction there. It just seemed like he was always getting targeted, and they were always getting picked on. And then the biggest turning point of the game was a busted coverage from, I think it was Justin Simmons. It was supposed to rotate over late on a deep pass to Stephon Diggs on a post route, and Chris Harris Jr. got torched. That was the whole turning point of the game, and you could just feel the momentum start to shift over and over and over towards the Vikings' favor, and then the Broncos couldn't do anything about it. So it's kind of frustrating, the up and down play from this Broncos team, and the way that the defense just seems to crumble in the clutch, and a lot of it does have to do with the secondary. Now, Erick, I'm going to let you start this off here with Chris Harris Jr. Go ahead and break it down just a little bit with the struggles that he has had, the inconsistencies that he has had for the majority of this season.
Well, I wrote an article a few weeks back about how Chris Harris Jr. hasn't been as good as advertised this season, and that holds true. He hasn't been playing at that Pro Bowl, All-Pro level that Broncos fans have used to. Is he still a good corner? Yes, he is. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he's terrible by any means, but he's just not that clear number one corner anymore. He is probably best as that number two. This year, I mean, he did have a couple good games against number one receivers, but he's also faltered in big moments. I mean, in this game against the Vikings, yes, Justin Simmons failed to rotate, but that doesn't change the fact that Chris Harris played that play a little bit lazy because he was expecting the help from Justin Simmons. And that's not how you go about it. You don't take a play off or play a play at 50% because you're expecting help. And look what happened. I mean, maybe if he played at 100%, he would have been able to at least make the tackle or something, not give up the huge touchdown. We don't know because it didn't happen. But it's just been an issue with him basically all season long that it's just still good, just not quite as great. So, I mean, with him being a free agent, who knows what's going to happen. I still think he'll get a really big contract. But he's allowing a 91.9 NFL rating when targeted, which isn't terrible. This is per Pro Football Focus, just by the way. 91.9, it's not terrible by any means, but it's not like... I'm trying to think of the best way to put it. It's not terrible, but it's far from good. It's not even in the top 50, like worse. So, hey, there's that, but it's not in the top 50 best. It's mediocre. That's the word I'm looking for. It's a mediocre. 91.9. Mediocre. And for among all corners, he ranks 71 for worst. So, again, not bad, but hey, it is what it is.
Excuse me. Sorry, I didn't mean to step over the top of you there, but I mean, you've got the Pro Football Focus numbers pulled up, and I'm sitting here and I'm looking at the Pro Football Reference numbers, and it's a drastic difference even from what you have said. So what I'm looking at here is I've got 26 completions on 40 targets, that's 65% completion percentage for 470 yards and 2 touchdowns, with a NFL quarterback rating of 111.5. Like, there's a drastic difference there, and the discrepancies we're not exactly quite sure, but we have kind of an idea. And the one play that we're specifically talking about here, the Stephon Diggs touchdown, that is probably the one, because I believe on the Pro Football Focus stats, he only has 1 touchdown allowed. Here he has 2.
That is correct.
So, exactly. And, like, just the statistical aspect of it, the differences that you see with Chris Harris Jr., he's always been just this lockdown corner. And, I mean, 65% completion percentage, that's actually pretty terrible, really. Honestly, that's not good. You don't, like, if you're a cornerback allowing 65% of your targets to be completed, that's awful. And 111.5, that's even worse. Like, it's not only that either. He's getting beat for deep plays. He's got an 18.1 yard per completion right now. Like, Chris Harris Jr. he's been, his typical self at times, but it's just been so inconsistent, and the big plays that he has been giving up have just been ridiculous. I mean, it just seems like every single game he has 1 or 2 really big plays against him in coverage where he's allowing, not quite a 20-yard reception, but 15, 20 yards, It's go ahead.
Sorry, but to add on to that is it's not just like, oh, hey, it's first down. These are coming on 3rd and longs or late in the game when the Broncos defense should be able to get off the field, that he's giving up these catches. There was one drive against the Bears, I'm pretty sure it was the Bears, late in the game, and boom, and it was 3rd down. They would have been able to get good field position, and he allows, I think it was like a 13 or 14-yard catch for a first down. So it's these kinds of plays, like when your playmakers need to step up, he's not. In fact, he's taking the step back and allowing the other team to make the plays. So he's just been a mediocre corner.
Yeah, and another thing, I mean, just the interception numbers. I don't know what it is with Chris Harris Jr. and the scheme fit with Vic Fangio for whatever reason. And he's never been a huge interception guy, but going into Vic Fangio's scheme where a lot of it relies on the linebackers and the safeties as far as coverage, and it opens up the cornerbacks to be able to drive on the football and come down the field vertically. Get their eyes on the quarterback, read the play in front of them, and go make plays and get these footballs taken away. Chris Harris Jr. only has 1 interception this year through 10 games. Like, we're not seeing the big plays. We're not seeing the big pass breakups that we usually see with him. Is it because of the leg injury he had last year? Is it because at 31, 32 years old, he's starting to slow down a little bit? I don't know. Whatever the thing is we're just not seeing the best of Chris Harris Jr. this year because it's been just so inconsistent with everything.
Yeah, it is. And for other stats that show it that he's just been mediocre, is he is taking 16.5 snaps per reception, but he's allowing 0.98 yards per snap, which that's not, don't get me wrong, that's not, again, it's not terrible, but it's not great either. It just speaks to his mediocrity this season. 10.1 snaps per target. Like, those aren't good numbers. I don't see how people can look at him and think that, oh, hey, he's playing so great this year. He isn't. And you can sit here and say, oh, hey, he's taking on their number one receivers. Okay, that's great. He is. That's true. But he asked for it. If you're going to ask to take the top dog of the other team, you better be ready to answer to back up your talk. Chris Harris hasn't. And one of the things that really irked me with him over this, with him wanting to take these top dogs, is that after the loss to the Packers, he comes out talking about how he shut down Davante Adams. Who cares? You lost the game. Who cares? You allowed a big catch when it mattered to go for a first down. Stop talking because he only had, 4 catches in that game? Just be quiet and play the game. When you lose, it doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't matter. And it's not only Chris Harris Jr. this year. Don't get me wrong, Chris Harris Jr., we love you. I hope you stay a Bronco forever. And maybe we're starting to see it here. Maybe we're starting to see a prudent move here by John Elway and not extending Chris Harris Jr. I do believe he's going to go get a major contract, and I wish it was going to be with the Denver Broncos. But maybe we are starting to see that it was kind of the right idea behind John Elway not extending Chris Harris Jr. prior to the season. They got him a restructured deal. They gave him a little bit more money for this year, made him a little bit happy. But they're really not fully committed to him. And that's a problem. Now, Chris Harris Jr., with the struggles that he has, the cornerbacks on the rest of the roster, Davante Harris, Isaac Yiadom, Duke Dawson, those guys, they've been very up and down. They've had a lot of their own struggles. I mean, Davante Harris, like I said in the beginning of this, Davante Harris got flat torched by Kirk Cousins and Stephon Diggs and that other wide receiver several times in the second half. Several times. He has flashes where he looks like he can actually be, a quality player, and he's so young, so he's got plenty of time to grow, He's started 5 games this year out of 10. He's 30 completions on 46 targets, 65.2% completion percentage, and a quarterback rating of 96.7. Like, you see the flashes of him, and he does have a couple of big tackles and stuff. I do love him as a tackler, but I mean, we're not seeing very much of him as far as a coverage grade in the consistency on his game tape. Isaac Yiadom has been completely disappeared from the defense since week 3?
Yep.
There's nobody else on this roster right now, and that's a problem. And I know everyone wants to pound the table, offensive tackle, got to find that left tackle of the future, and I agree with that. But also at the same time, if you look past 2020 and get into 2021, 2022, the Broncos have a drastic need at cornerback, and there is no way in the world that they can go into the 2020 draft with a premium pick like this and not consider taking a cornerback. That's just plain and simple truth there, guys. Like, we desperately need to figure out something with this cornerback position, because the guys that are on the roster, the young guys, other than Devontae Bosby, I was very impressed with Devontae Bosby, and I think that he can actually be a solid number 2 cornerback moving forward in this league. But without having Chris Harris Jr. in the fold, especially if he does walk in free agency, the cornerback position for the Broncos has immediately turned into the biggest need for this Broncos team. That's just my personal opinion. Eric, what do you think?
It is a huge need for him, and with Chris Harris or without Chris Harris, it's still going to be a huge need. Chris Harris has shown he can't be the number 1 receiver. His play is just mediocre as a number 1 receiver. He specializes as that number 2, number 3 corner. That's why he was able to play so well. He wasn't taking the best guys' matchups. That was Aqib Talib. Duke Dawson, Davante Harris, yes, they've had flashes, but we haven't seen any kind of consistency. We don't know. We have no idea how they're going to bounce back after the absolutely terrible games they had against the Vikings. I mean, Davante Harris, he had a chance to really go make a big play for the Denver Broncos in that game with the potential interception that just fell out of his hands.
Yep, in the end zone. In the end zone, no less.
In the end zone, you've got to come down with that ball. Like if you really want to go out there and be a cover corner and play at that highest level and be a starter, you have to make that play. He played so terribly, he got benched for Isaac Yiadom. Like, that says it all. He got benched for Isaac Yiadom. That's how bad Devontae Harris was. And this hurts. This hurts me because just a week ago, I did a whole video hyping up Devontae Harris. I did a whole video hyping up Duke Dawson and how well they've played with the fact that, hey, they were brought in just the Friday before the regular season started. Or the Friday, Saturday, Sunday of that. They were just late additions after preseason. They didn't have the time to really go through all that and grow the chemistry. They had to do that while the games were meaningful. And they still showed a lot of promise in those games in their play time, and then they come out and just completely bomb it against the Vikings. That was the game where they really needed to step up. That is a tough Vikings passing game that was helped by the fact that they have such a good running game. Great. The defense stepped up and stopped the running game. They failed to do their part in the passing game. And it hurts on a personal level that I would do something to hype these guys up. And I still do think that both these guys can probably turn into, at the very least, solid corners. But until I see it, it's cornerback remains a need. I'm not going to bet on their ability to develop, especially after what we just saw this last Sunday, until they show it. Until they show it at a consistent level against good talent that's going to challenge them. Can they step up and rise to the occasion? Because if they can't, then cornerback just jumps even higher. And I would say that if they are unable to do that, cornerback becomes an even bigger need than left tackle. That's how questionable this whole corner group is. And I got to say, just to toot my own horn here a little bit, is all offseason I was talking about how don't hype up this cornerback group. Chris Harris is coming off an injury. He's getting older. He showed a decline last year. We don't know what's going to happen with him. Bryce Callahan and his injury, hey, look, he's out for the year. Is Isaac Yiadom going to develop? What's Devontae Bosby going to do? There's no depth after them. I was sitting here saying this over and over and over again, and I got called so many names. But look where we're at now. Chris Harris, mediocre play. Duke Dawson, he's shown flashes but no consistency. Devontae Bosby, he's on IR, which when he was playing, he did show a lot of potential and everything, and who knows how different the secondary would be if he didn't get hurt. Bryce Callahan, he never played a freaking snap. Devontae Harris, no consistency. Isaac Yiadom, clearly he wasn't able to develop. I do think that the scheme isn't the best fit for him, but hey, you still have to be able to step up, and he failed to do so. He is, at this point, a bust to me, and that hurts also because he was one of my favorite corners in that class, but corner is such a need. It was such a need. It got so hyped up, and it's just been a letdown this year. Denver's lost multiple games because their secondary has really failed, primarily their corners, and that is absolutely shameful.
It is, and just to kind of bring that full point, just the cornerback and how the struggles that they've had and how they have failed this Broncos defense, I'm going to read off the completion percentage in ascending order here for all 5 of the Broncos cornerbacks currently on the roster. Chris Harris Jr. 65.0, Devontae Harris 65.2, Duke Dawson and Isaac Yiadom 75%. That's not good. The Broncos have to do something.
Meanwhile, we have a quarterback who can't complete 50% of his passes.
Yeah.
You're not going to win games when that's the case. When all of your corners are allowing a higher completion percentage than your quarterback is getting himself, you're not going to win games. Simple as that. And people can hate on me all they want. They can call me a hater for this, whatever. Don't care. Only reason why the Denver Broncos beat the Cleveland Browns was because of Cortland Sutton and Noah Fant were able to produce 2 big plays. Brandon Allen didn't play well that game. The defense didn't play all that great that game. The secondary had multiple collapses, but even so, they allowed points on the board. But hey, that's just a whole different situation. Denver came out with a win. That's great, but doesn't change the fact that you're not going to win many games. Shouldn't win many games anyways. If your quarterback's completing less than 50% of your passes and your cornerbacks are all giving up well over 50% of completion percentage.
Yeah, you're definitely not wrong. But anyways, guys, we're going to have to take a quick break here really fast. But before we do, I just want to remind you all to head on over to milehighhuddle.com to check out all of our written content on your Denver Broncos. At the Huddle website, you'll get breaking news, analysis, and opinion articles, as well as in-depth film breakdowns of not only Broncos players, but matchups to watch in an upcoming game or even our top-notch NFL draft coverage. Also, make sure you take a couple minutes to create your own personalized profile and hit up the comment section to voice your opinions on any topics that you agree or disagree with. It's completely free, it's easy to use, and we all love to discuss Broncos football with our readers. You can also sit in with us during the live game thread to talk your thoughts on how the team is performing as well. So with that, we got to step away for a few minutes. We'll be right back. Sit tight.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast. We just got done kind of not necessarily tearing apart Chris Harris Jr., but...
No, I tore him apart. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I tore him apart. I'm sorry if you guys that bothered you guys. But the subject of the corners, especially Chris Harris's play, just really gets me heated.
Well, statistical analysis of it anyways, and we didn't really go break down the film and what might he be doing wrong as far as his coverage grades and everything like that goes. But, moving forward, we did kind of allude to it just a little bit with Chris Harris Jr. and the contract situation and the fact that the Broncos really haven't made that full-time commitment to Chris Harris Jr. moving forward after 2019. He is an upcoming unrestricted free agent, and this cornerback class looks to be pretty decent. So you never know. We might actually see the end of Chris Harris Jr. following the 2019 season as far as being in a Denver Broncos uniform. So with that, everybody, I want to take a quick second here to go remind you guys to go check out milehighhuddle.com. Go up to the very top of the screen. You're going to see where it says draft. Click on that and go check out the draft section, because right now Erick has his top 5 players at every position on the offense and on the defense. It's 2 different articles for the not for the Broncos. His top 5 player grades for each position on offense and defense at Mile High Huddle. So go check that out. And today we're going to break down the cornerback position. This is the cornerback episode. So, Erick, let's start it off here with your top cornerback, and he's seemingly the consensus top cornerback in the NFL, in Jeffery Okudah, the cornerback from Ohio State. What do you think?
Well, just got to sit here and throw this out there just because I know it bothers Nick. Pronounce his name wrong. It's kind of become a joke because I was trying to figure out how to say it, and I started making a joke of Jeffery Okudah. Star Wars reference, Jar Jar Binks. Just had to throw that out there. But Jeffery Okudah is a really good corner. I mean, there's nothing that can really be said about him. He's a playmaker with the ball in the air. He'll go get the ball. He'll just knock the ball out if he's unable to come down with the interception. He's very capable in zone coverage, but a lot better in man coverage. Very versatile skill set. Just a lot of fun to watch. I mean, he's my number one corner for a reason. I don't see that changing unless he gets into some major legal trouble. Like, he is just that talented, and it's funny to me because Ohio State has such a great team this year, and it's just, like, I don't want to come off like I'm Ohio State biased. I have no favorite college football team. Just throw it out there. I actually make sure that I don't, just because I don't want to be accused of bias of this or anything like that. I don't root for anybody to win. I don't root for anybody to lose. I just go and I watch the players, and they have so many guys that stand out. But even watching the defense that has Chase Young on it, and I love edge players, but Jeffery Okudah is so good that he consistently grabs my attention whenever I watch him play or watch Ohio State play. Absolutely love his game. And there's what negatives there are just little things that can be cleaned up with his game or be a little bit more consistent with. It just, man, there's nothing else to say except that he is such a good talent. If Denver takes him, great. I would love to see how they incorporate his versatility, his ability to play man and zone, being better at man. Emphasis on that since this is more of his own team. I would love to see how they were able to incorporate that and use and adjust the defense to his strengths.
And that's something that we're going to have to see from Vic Fangio's side on that, is adjusting the defensive schemes that he has been calling. And with the issues that we have seen with Chris Harris Jr. being such a good man coverage cornerback, and he does kind of struggle in zone, that might be another reason why Chris Harris Jr. has struggled this season. But to move forward just a little bit, on that same Ohio State team, I'm going to skip one of these guys really quick, is a guy that you pound the table all the time for in Shaun Wade, the other cornerback from the Ohio State Buckeyes. And this weekend, Ohio State is playing Penn State, and John Elway and the scouting crew for the Denver Broncos are going to be in attendance. So they're going to see Jeffery Okudah, and they're going to see Shaun Wade. Now, what speaks to Wade's game that really appeases to you?
It's also versatility. I think that he is capable of man, but I think he's better in zone. That's what stands out to me. That is why, while I think that Okudah is the better over player, I think Wade is a much better fit for the Broncos defense. He has the skill set that you're kind of looking for the zone coverage. One thing that I am a little bit concerned with is that he's been used inside more than outside. So how will he do being able to adapt to outside? He's not limited inside because of his size by any means. He's actually got really good size. My biggest thing though is that, and this is going to be a gut wrench if this actually happens, but he's a redshirt sophomore, and I really do think that he will return to school this year and hopefully improve his play, and next year probably be one of the first two corners off the board. He's just that good, and he just has that kind of potential that I just don't think that he'll come out this year. It's such a tough corner class already with Christian Fulton and Paulson Adebo and Trevon Diggs and all these other guys vying for that number 2, number 3, number 4 spots. And I think next year that as long as his play takes that next step, he will undoubtedly be one of the first two corners. So don't think he comes out this year in the end, but I really hope he does, and I would love him in Denver if he does.
And if he comes out this year, it was probably more likely that he's going to be a second-round pick just behind all the top guys.
I really think he'd be able to crack that first round. He's just that talented and that versatile. I mean, especially with how many teams need corners this year. People don't realize this, but cornerback has actually been pretty bad around the NFL all season. Star quality guys aren't playing at that same level this year. There's been a big drop off, and I think that with how it's becoming more of a passing game, NFL and all that stuff too, I really think that he can crack that first round.
Awesome. That's you never know. The NFL draft is the world's biggest crapshoot. I mean, everyone. I mean, you see all these mock drafts and everything, and nobody gets them 100% right because nobody actually knows what the inside thinking is with all these NFL teams. But I mean, my first round mock draft that I do the day after the first round happens is always 100% correct. Everybody's is.
No, just mine.
Oh, just yours. Okay, that's
just mine.
That's fun. Thank you. I appreciate the vote of confidence there, man. But anyway, so let's get this going here. Now we're going to backtrack just a little bit, and with Jeffery Okudah being the top cornerback in this class, it's not a far stretch to see. I mean, premium position, obviously with the need of covering the pass, Okudah could possibly be a top 5, top 6 pick, and if the Broncos win another couple of games, they might not be picking in that range. So to be honest, the next guy you would be looking at would be Christian Fulton. Is that wrong?
Right now, for my grades, that isn't wrong. I do think that he might take a small drop on my top 5 rankings a little bit just because there's been some tackling issues with him. But he fits the scheme very well. Very good corner. If he can clean up those tackling issues, he could really be a star in the NFL. I just have concerns with that tackling, especially with how Vic Fangio has made a statement that tackling is so important for his defensive backs.
What is it with the LSU defensive backs and their tackling right now? I mean, Grant Delpit, we're seeing a big issue with Grant Delpit and tackling. Christian Fulton obviously as well there. So I don't know what's going on down there in the Bayou, but Ed Orgeron needs to figure it out and get these guys to figure out how to wrap up and tackle when the opportunity presents itself. But moving forward again, next guy on your list that you gave to me is Trevon Diggs, the cornerback out of Alabama. What do you got?
Big, tall, long, very much a press man, so I am not confident in his abilities in a primarily off-zone coverage team. I mean, I think he's capable, but I don't think that's his best suit. I definitely think that a team that is going to sit here and put him on the line of scrimmage, jam wide receivers within those first 5 yards, and just let him play to those strengths, I think he can really be good in the NFL with that. But yeah, I just question his ability to read the quarterback and react quick enough to really make a play on the ball and basically in the Broncos scheme that they run. So that's my big issue with him. Still a really fun corner to watch, but when he's playing to his strengths, when he's kind of out of his element a little bit, you can definitely see that there's some hitches in his technique and hitches in his play just overall.
Okay. Now, we're just going to keep kind of moving this forward, guys, because we're going to have to run up on another break here. But I want to get your take on this. You and Nick had an exchange on our group chat the other day. Nick had Nick had done a quick mock draft. I think he used the Draft Network's mock draft machine, and he had A.J. Terrell, the cornerback out of Clemson, on that. And you said that you were not necessarily a huge Terrell fan, but you do have him ranked one player higher than the guy that you said that you would rather have at that particular draft slot, in TCU's Jeff Gladney. Now, I wanted just kind of a side-by-side comparison of these two, and why would you go Jeff Gladney over A.J. Terrell?
Well, actually, Jeff Gladney is my higher-rated player. When I was telling you the players, I was actually going from bottom up with the three. So A.J. Terrell was actually lower than Jeff Gladney, just to clear that up. A.J. Terrell is actually my 12th overall corner right now. That is subject to change. It has been a couple weeks since I've really broken down corners. I'm getting ready to do them again here soon. And then Jeff Gladney is my number 10 overall corner, so just a few spots. Now, A.J. Terrell, when I watched him a few weeks ago, he was very much an athletic guy, just relying on that athleticism. I wasn't able to see the technique really standing out or improvements in technique that I wanted to see over time. I don't know how much that has changed over the course of the last few weeks. With Jeff Gladney, that technique was there. He is a big play threat. I mean, he has his hands on the ball all the freaking time. Just last year alone, he had 13 pass breakups, 2 interceptions. The year before that, 2017, 5 pass breakups, 2 interceptions. This year, he has 12 pass breakups, 1 interception, 25 pass breakups so far between last year and this year. And there's still a couple of games left for TCU. 3 interceptions. He has his hands on the ball. He plays so well, sitting back, off coverage, reading the quarterback, coming up and making the play. He's very quick. He's very agile, very athletic. That is why I would take him over A.J. Terrell. Plus, I've seen the technique from him. If I see the technique from A.J. Terrell, they'll be a lot closer rated. Just because, and basically, that is what separates them. Is I've seen the technique from one, not so much from the other.
And that's a fair assessment. And I mean, the technique with Vic Fangio's defense is definitely a must see. Tackling technique, coverage technique, stuff like that. You really can't have that rely on the athleticism side of things. And if Jeff Gladney is more refined in his technique than A.J. Terrell, I could completely understand why you would have him rated on your board higher than A.J. Terrell anyways. But guys, we're getting a little bit long here. We're going to have to take another quick break. On the other side, we'll break down the Bills.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
All right, welcome back to Dove Valley Deep Divers. After a ridiculously embarrassing loss, it's one of the most embarrassing losses, maybe other than the big Raiders blowout with Jamarcus Russell coming in relief, and I don't remember exactly when that was, but that one and blowing a 20-point lead to the Minnesota Vikings when you had them on the ropes, and just the complete and total shutdown offensively after what we'd seen with the creative play calling and the big play action passing game and the defensive turnaround that we saw, just allowing the Vikings march up and down the field. I don't really have a lot of hope going against the Buffalo Bills. And I know that people are going to kind of shake their heads, and Eric, you might be shaking your head as well as I'm saying this, but that Buffalo Bills team, they may not be consistently good, but they're at least consistent in what they do. They don't have a lot of big plays all the time. Their offense is with Josh Allen in the fold. They run the ball very well. That's something the Broncos struggle to do is stop the run. And with the big plays in the passing game, with Josh Allen throwing the ball to John Brown, deep down the field, that's another thing the Broncos have some struggles with, especially late in games. With the way the Broncos defense have played over the past couple of weeks, especially speaking specifically to the Vikings and the Browns game, I really don't know. You can see the Bills fall off, and you can see the Broncos step up. Eric, who do you got?
This is a Broncos team that doesn't travel well at all, especially to the East Coast, where they're going to be taking on the Bills in their home environment, and they're a very tough team. That defense is one of the best in the NFL. They are so good. Pass coverage, run defense, they are just a really good defense. And a lot of that is owed to head coach Sean McDermott. Very good defensive mind in the NFL. Guy who's showing that you can win with a strong defense and a good running game. Will they be able to go and make a run in the playoffs? We don't know yet. But it's going to be a tough game for that. I think that Josh Allen, I don't think he's a great quarterback by any means, but he's very good with what the Bills want to do. They open up the run game, they're able to move the ball on the ground, and they let him take a couple shots a game and see if he can't connect for that big passing play. And just, with what we saw, I don't know if the Broncos can hang on long enough with them to stop those big passing games. He is hard to bring down, so I don't know if their coverage is going to, or their pass rush is going to be able to go and hit him and get him to the ground without him getting out of the pocket and buying more time to get the ball downfield. Are they going to be able to stop the run? We were able to see them stop the run against the Vikings, but it came at a cost. I don't see them being able to do everything that's going to be needed for them to walk away with the win against Buffalo. Buffalo, they're very good when it comes to facing teams that are considered bad, like the Broncos. But when it comes to facing teams that are good, they tend to lose. They're one of those teams that just beat up on the little guys, lose to the big guys. They're very physical, all sides of the ball. They will, being at home, I don't know what the weather's supposed to be like, but if the weather's bad, that plays into their favor. They're used to it. It's going to be a tough one, and I just don't see the Broncos walking away with this one with a quarterback who can't complete 50% of his passes.
Are you talking about Josh Allen or Brandon Allen? Which Allen are you talking
Allen.
About there that can't complete 50? Okay, yeah. Well, regardless, the Allen boys, this is not going to be a throwing the ball across the yard kind of a contest. Like, this is Josh Allen with the struggles, and I'm a Wyoming Cowboys fan. I will make it known. I live in Wyoming. I eat, sleep, and breathe Wyoming Cowboys football, and I'm always pitching these guys, Wyoming players, to look out for. Speaking of another defensive back, Elijah Halliburton, that's a late riser if you're wanting a late round steal, at the safety position. That's a guy to look out for. But with Josh Allen, I mean, I was skeptical of him with the accuracy issues that he had, and there's a lot of stuff that goes into context with that, but we just really haven't seen it kind of translate in having better receivers that can actually catch the ball, because at Wyoming, he had a tendency to hit his guys in the hands, and they had a tendency to drop the football a lot. And now he's got guys that can actually catch the football, obviously John Brown, but they're just not asking him to throw the ball around the yard like that. They're using his mobility. They're getting him out on the run. They're the heavy running game. We're not going to see a big aerial attack from either team this week, I don't think. I mean, if we do, it's going to be from Brandon Allen, and it's going to be maybe a couple of deep shots on the play-action game that we saw, kind of similar to what we saw last week against the Vikings. But I don't know. There's just... With the Bills' defense as good as they are in the secondary and as good as they are in the pass defense, with Brandon Allen, the struggles that he has had is just, I don't know. I really don't think that the Broncos have much of a chance to walk out of this game, and it's going to take a big offensive explosion and then hope that Josh Allen falters. And that's a very good possibility with him. He's just been so inconsistent over the course of his career. So, I don't know. I got the Broncos losing 17-13 on the road on the early start time. This team just doesn't travel well, especially going to places like Buffalo and Miami. So, it's hard for me to pick the Broncos here this week as well. So, but anyways, guys, that's going to do it for us today. We're going to wrap it up here. Thank you all once again for joining us on the Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast. You guys can follow us both on Twitter by finding me at Sanderson MHH and for Eric at Erick Trickel. Also, be sure to follow at Mile High Huddle. Set up your notifications for instant updates on your Denver Broncos. Each and every story published on the Huddle website is posted immediately on our Twitter handle, so you guys have instant access right at your fingertips. You guys can also like Mile High Huddle's Facebook page as well. We love and appreciate all of your guys' support, and if it weren't for you all, we wouldn't be able to do what we do best, which is cover your Denver Broncos. So until next time, Broncos country, you guys stay safe, take care, and have a good one.